Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of M365 Voice. My name's Antonio Mayo.
I'm Sarah Hazy.
And I am Mike Madarani.
I'm always thankful when we manage to do that correctly.
That's right. That's right. In the right order and with the right names. And today we're going to talk to you about enterprise adoption strategies for rolling out Microsoft 365 Copilot. We all here have had different experiences or similar experiences with rolling out Copilot, and we wanted to share some of the strategies that we've used in our organizations or with clients and see if maybe they work for you. So I think we've all been through some form of M365 Copilot rollout, both the web-grounded chat as well as kind of tenant-grounded Copilot experiences. And we want to talk a little bit about that with everyone, share some of the strategies that have worked or maybe that haven't worked. So,
okay.
I like the topic. I think that there are a lot of companies running pilots. I think there are companies that have fully deployed to a subset, but I think that a lot of it is, especially at larger, medium to large size organizations, it seems like it's a really hybrid approach, that maybe they've deployed the chat version, Copilot Chat, to all employees, and then to a smaller subset, they have deployed or offered up the ability to have people subscribe and departmentally pay for maybe even the full Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses.
Yeah, it's a mix in my world as well. A lot of POCs, a lot of smaller deployments. It's the hybrid approach, if you want to call it, and the rest of the organization, they are exploring with the Copilot chat. So they're getting themselves familiar how this one works before taking the steps into the tenant level.
And I've seen pilots start off at a certain size. Typically, they start with the standard 300 users, and then I've seen them expand to 500 users, 1,000 users, 2,000 users. And I think that type of strategy is good for starting off with a smaller subset and using that to kind of also test your adoption techniques, your communication strategies, the help that people need, and having a good idea of what works and what doesn't work as you expand that out to more and more users. Our organization, for example, we're currently at 2,000 users internally with M365 Copilot with tenant-grounded experiences, and it's working well. Some of the strategies that I've seen work, and we're actually using some, is the different groups, or let's say clusters of users across the organization, tend to have one or two people that kind of act as the champion for the solution, kind of push it, remind everybody to use it, because it's easy to fall into old ways and no longer, and stop using it, or oh yeah, I should try it again, or I should use it again. And then also have a long-running, what's worked for us is having a long-running chat where people share what they've done in Copilot, what's worked, what doesn't work. Sometimes it's something funny, sometimes it's something serious, but I found that has helped to both remind people and give people a good idea of what's a good prompt.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what you described. It's very similar to back in the days when part of it, at least, deploying SharePoint. Like we've always deployed SharePoint in phases and different teams. If you always pick champions, it's a new technology. It takes quite a bit of hand holding. You pick this one or two people that are more experts in a platform and get them to train and share the knowledge with the rest of the team. Now we have the chat on the side. Now we have sharing more interactive, more lively chat than it was before. But I like that approach.
I agree. I think that one of the things that I've seen work really well is it's a classic adoption and change management scenario that I remember using, well, longer than I'd like to admit, but 15 or 20 years ago with SharePoint, which is, it's one thing for the project or the product teams that are rolling out and enabling Copilot to talk about how they're using it. But let's remember that to most business users, those are subjective, or they're not objective, they're subjective truths or realities or recommendations. What ends up being really powerful is when you have business unit teams or people that are embedded in the company's core business that are leveraging Copilot, either Copilot Chat or the paid for M365 Copilot, and share their use cases or the actual ways in which they're using it every day. And it really sort of it acts as a brainstorming capacity for how Copilot could be used. I was on a team meeting about 5-6 months ago, and someone said, well, I used Copilot in my personal life last night to help me do a bunch of planning for a family trip that we were taking, and went into great detail about it. And everyone said, can you share the Copilot prompt that you use? Well, sent the Copilot prompt, and it was long, as good Copilot prompts should be, but it went through, we're flying in this day, we're staying in these cities at these hotels, I want food recommendations, train recommendations, how to get around in these Italian cities, and what to do with a 10 and 12-year-old. And what are must-see items for this? A very detailed Copilot prompt, and the results were amazing. But talking about and dissecting that as a live example was so much more interesting than looking at the standard slides where it breaks down the parts of a Copilot prompt like we used to diagram sentences in English class. Much more interesting to take a look at that as a very detailed example.
Yeah, and I talk about this all the time when I do the training and adoption for Copilot, is think about Copilot that you prompt should not be one sentence. You have to give the context of it. Because while we're trying to find information in your brain, you already know what you're looking for. You know what you want to get. It's not a simple sentence of few words only. You're gonna have to give it. It's like just not one line. You're gonna have to give it the context. What's your goal? You're gonna give it what kind of language you're gonna have. What's the mood of it? What do you want to have? What's the audience gonna look like? So you're gonna have to be a little bit more descriptive in your prompt to get the best result out of it.
And all that makes sense. I think having a real concrete example, like the example you shared, Sarah, I think that helps people to put kind of the theory of what you said, Mike, into, okay, yeah, that's what this really looks like when I actually try to use it. One other thing that I've been doing is just on Friday afternoons, I'll use a prompt like summarize my last week as a comedy roast. And then it'll come back. And they're hilarious. If you try it, it's really funny. And then I post that to this chat that I have with my team on using Copilot, and it just makes people laugh. And it's just a nice, fun way on a Friday to get people to try it. So yeah, I like those kinds of strategies, just finding fun, real examples that get people interested in trying it and using it.
So on that topic, how do you share prompts from an adoption perspective? What's your go-to method to share prompts with the rest of the team or whoever in the organization, if the organization is small or large? Any preferred method?
So I think there's better ways than what I'm doing now. Using Viva Engage, for example, would be a better way. But for us, it's just a long-running Teams chat that we have, just because it's the most convenient thing to go to, because I already have Teams and the chat window up for all of my day-to-day work. So it's the least path of resistance of going to something.
Okay.
One thing that I know that I have talked to multiple people about starting to use is when we think about providing help for our users in terms of training help or Viva Engage commentary, is Copilot prompting help in creating some kind of a methodology, whether that's in Teams or in Viva Engage, whether it's on a SharePoint site, but providing something where people can even, like, one things we've talked about is I want to organize my OneDrive with color-coded folders to more clearly organize my documents. Can you provide me suggestions on how to get started, or something like that? But a detailed prompt that gives people ideas of not only how to write the prompt, but a topic or a subject area to ask Copilot about, because I think that's the hardest part, is conceptualizing the what.
How do you respond if you have had that kind of comments in your lives, how do you respond to someone saying, I'm not seeing any benefit from Copilot? Any idea? Have you ran into this, or
Yes.
everyone gets really excited and like, yay, it's
People
working?
get excited. I think some people don't necessarily understand ways in which they could use it. So I will freely say that I find most people, I think it's easier to talk about using Copilot. Some of the work things are easy to ask it to do, like annual performance reviews or mid-year reviews. If you work for a company whose annual fiscal calendar is based on the on the standard annual year-long calendar, mid-year review time is coming up. Nobody likes writing reviews in my experience. So if you can point Copilot at a set of documents, for example, if you have Microsoft 365 Copilot and say, these are my status reports that I've sent out this year, draft me a short mid-year self-review that I can send to my manager. That kind of a Copilot prompt will save people from things that they don't like to do. Beyond that, I like using personal examples. I'm working on and will be releasing a blog post. I recently took a trip with my family, and I used Copilot not only to generate a packing list for the trip, but one of my life challenges is 10 or 11 days in a carry-on suitcase and a small backpack. Copilot, tell me how to get my packing list down to what will fit in that amount of space. And it was great for it. And I just went back and forth, and Copilot gave me an itemized list of what to pack. I didn't agree with all of it, but it gave me an excellent starting point.
Yeah. I think to your question, Mike, when you run across people who don't see benefit, I try to encourage them to use it to try to start stuff. Don't necessarily rely on it to give you the final answer, but to start something, or to start something faster. I myself will have to send, and this is one example of where I've used it just recently. I will often have to send very sensitive emails about projects, either internally or externally to clients. And sometimes it takes me a while just to figure out how to start a message when you're trying to deliver something that's not fun to deliver, right? And it's just the getting started. And once I'm started, I'm off to the show. I will use that to, help me draft a message that talks about this and keeps it positive. And then I will edit it before I send it, but at least it gets them started and gets the whole thing, I find, done faster. So I try to share examples like that and get them to try that. And if ultimately it doesn't save them time and isn't beneficial to them, fine, you repurpose that license for somebody else. But I don't find that that's the majority of people. I find that those people are exceptions.
True, and that's what I tell people as well. Like, all of us will go sometimes, you're trying to do something and you have this cloudy thoughts and you really don't know where to start and what to say or what to do or write, whatever you're trying to do. Try Copilot. Give it the idea of what you're trying to say or trying to do, and it might get you head started, and then you can continue on.
Yeah,
it's a really good approach.
Now, what do you guys think about? I have seen organizations where they monitor who's using Copilot once they've given them a license, or the tenant grounded chat, right? They monitor how much people are using it, and if they don't use it enough for a particular period of time, they give them a warning. And then after that, their license gets taken away and it's given to somebody else.
Because nothing drives adoption like giving out warnings. That's my favorite line. Do you know what that drives? Compliance, not adoption.
Awesome.
Those
I
are
think that
two
should be the
very
title
different things.
Right.
I think that should be the title.
Giving
of this
people
podcast.
a warning. We gave you something that we think is magnificent. You're not using it sufficiently, so do better. It sounds like your mom and you're 6.
Yes. So I've seen that used.
Yep. Same
and
here.
then I've seen the license taken away when someone doesn't use it enough.
Yep.
Thoughts on that?
I think it's legit, because most organizations that I've dealt with, they've only purchased up to 20-25% of the workforce worth of Copilot licenses.
Yeah.
So if I am not using it, but other people are asking for it, so yes, you give it a warning.
Totally appropriate, but we got to think about how we message that. So, for example, do you want to, try and do a coffee chat, maybe have somebody go out or have people go out, and if someone on their team or in their department is using Copilot more effectively according to the metrics, maybe reach out and do like a warm, soft, fuzzy version of that. Although I get it, some people really want it and other people's, and I think it kind of goes down the Everett Rogers diffusion model, which is what I always talk about from an adoption perspective, right? That you have people that are innovators, you have people that are early majority, late majority, and laggards in terms of any kind of change, including technology change. And if you give a Copilot license to someone who's a late majority or a laggard, like by personality type in terms of how they adapt to change, they're probably going to need a lot of evidence and a lot of instances where maybe it takes 10 or 15 or 20 or 100 times of someone saying and providing a suggestion that they even find meaningful before they're going to start using it. So I think there's a really valid instance of maybe we didn't choose always correctly, or maybe that person just doesn't have time right now to give it a look because they're too busy, or they have other things going on. We all have things going on. So
that's fair. Because nothing drives adoption like sending out warnings. Is that what the quote was?
Yeah. Nothing says adoption like a warning. That's called it drives compliance, not adoption.
That's right.
So I do think it's important to think about. I think it's also confusing for organizations where they have that hybrid model of Copilot chat and M365 Copilot, because the communications are a little bit confusing. Because if you say Copilot, some people will think that then they can utilize it for tenant grounded items. Other people don't. So it can be confusing explaining those two different versions of Copilot and the different experiences that employees will have. And you want buzz and employees to talk to each other about it, but that's going to set up some level of confusion as well.
Have you gotten to the point? I had something to say because I was going to jump on something more advanced.
I would just to finish that one off. I think some of what drives this notion of that people don't use it enough. I prefer the warm fuzzy approach versus the warning, but I think part of what's driving the warning and then taking licenses away is just the sheer cost, right? Because for a lot of companies, it is expensive. So I think that's partly what's driving that kind of activity. But Mike, what were you gonna? I
was gonna go into a little bit more, stepping into more adoptions towards a little bit of advancements in the M365 Copilot. So you've deployed it, you used it with the M365 apps. Have you gotten to the point where, yes, you're getting requests from people, they want specific agents to be built to do more specific things with Copilot? Or, and if you have, and how long did it take the users from the day they started using Copilot, getting trained on it, to the point they say, oh, I'm loving it, it's helping me with my productivity, but now I have more specific use cases. I want to build agents for it.
I've seen a few people pick up the notion of agents. I don't think it was an immediate thing.
Okay.
I find that it's very much people that are, say, very developer focused or Power Platform focused, the people that would typically build automations or that type of low code solution that are very driven to, let me try agents or let me try that kind of thing. I think I have seen a lot of people come to Copilot with use cases that don't necessarily work or it's not built for, and then they look to agents as a potential solution for that.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question though.
Yeah, you are. Yes, absolutely.
I think that the industry and even adoption by companies who have purchased more Copilot licenses, I think that it just takes a while for companies to catch up with those things. I think that there are a lot of companies talking about agents, but I have to be honest, I think that there is also a lot of healthy risk and concern about agents, because we still have so many companies that I feel like have gotten ahead of their skis on deploying Copilot before they've actually addressed oversharing and sensitive data. So I think that concerns a lot of companies around the use of agents, and it should, right? So I think it'll come with time, but you got to allow people to get a foot in.
Agreed.
Okay.
I
and
think
make it
there's,
part of their daily routine.
yeah, there's still a lot evolving with agents too, right? Like right now, you can't get an inventory, for example, of, well, not easily, of all the different kinds of agents you create in Microsoft 365 when you consider, Copilot Studio agents, SharePoint agents, and Teams Toolkit agents, and there's a fourth one, and Azure Foundry agent. You can't get an inventory, and if you can't get an inventory and get visibility of all these agents across your entire
Mhm.
org, how do you govern that, right?
Correct. Exactly.
So yeah, I think there's still a lot that needs to be done in that regard for agents to really get mass adoption.
Agreed.
I think we've had a lot to say on this topic. We've seen quite a few just from our own company experiences, from clients that we work with, from people we talk to in the community, a lot of interest and experience in Copilot, and then just different strategies and tactics for dealing with adoption of Copilot.
Mhm.
So thanks,
I think the
everyone.
most important thing is to think about Copilot and adoption and change management, and make it relevant. What's in it for me, and not draconian.
Agreed. Great.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone. See
Thank
you on
you.
another episode.